Okay, let's get into this. Picture it. Lights are low, maybe flickering a bit, the aisles are totally empty, and you're the only soul around. Today we're not doing a super deep academic dive, but we're sharing some stories. Really unsettling accounts that people have shared about working alone, often, overnight shifts. These aren't just campfire tales, they feel real. Moments where everything normal just twists into something bizarre. Sometimes, pretty terrifying.
Right. And these specific accounts, the sources we have, they really shine a light on that vulnerability, don't they? Being isolated, especially in these big, quiet spaces, you can mess with your head. Changes how secure you feel. Normal routines, familiar places suddenly feel
off.
Unsettling. And we've got 3 stories that really capture that shift.
Absolutely. So first up, let's talk about someone working at a 24-hour CVS. This person, they were management, right? And they'd taken on the overnights, midnight to 8 a.m., partly for a promotion, I think. And at this store, it was bare bones overnight. After the pharmacy closes, usually just one employee, alone, waiting for things to pick up around 9 a.m., mostly just quiet stalking, keeping an ear out for that little ding from the front door beeper when someone comes in. So a few hours into a shift, maybe 2 a.m., something kicks off that just shatters that quiet. They're near the register, check the phone, and see a new voicemail. Unknown number. They listen, and it's just static. No, worse than static. A really weird, distorted voice, couldn't understand a word, couldn't even tell if it was male or female. Just awful audio, honestly. They just kind of brush it off. You get weird calls sometimes, right? Spam, whatever.
Happens all the time. Easy to dismiss initially.
Totally. But then it escalates. A bit later, they're stalking, phone lights up. Texts from that same number. And not just one, a few. First one, call back when you can. Okay, still maybe just weird. Then the next one, I know you're at work, I'm coming to visit. Whoa, okay, that's creepy. And then, what time are you working till? So they immediately text back, who the hell is this? And the typing dots, they pop up, stay there for 20 seconds, just hanging. Then, poof, gone. No reply.
That waiting, the typing indicator, that adds a whole layer of psychological tension, doesn't it? The anticipation.
For sure, but, job to do. They try to shake it off. And then they hear it, that front door chime. Customer. So they head back to the register expecting someone to walk down an aisle. And they wait, and they wait. Nobody. No one comes up. After a while, they figure, okay, maybe someone just ducked in and right back out. So they go back to stalking. They grab a cart, beauty products this time, head to a middle aisle. And as they're wheeling the cart, they spot someone, a woman, standing in the corner of the next aisle over. So they step into her aisle, can I help you find anything? Standard stuff. She's looking down at something, but no response. Doesn't even look up, doesn't acknowledge them at all.
Just complete silence. That's unnerving in itself.
Right, super awkward. They figure she's just focused, maybe doesn't want help. So they back away, head towards the register again, assume she'll come up when she's ready, and that's when the phone starts going off again. Same number, just text after text. Mostly nonsense, random jumbles of words. But then, one message cuts through the noise. I'm here.
And there it is. That's the pivot point in these kinds of stories. You've got the digital harassment, the calls, the text, unsettling, sure. But that message, I'm here, suddenly it's not remote anymore. The source, the threat, whatever it is, it's physically present in the same space. That shift from digital to physical proximity. It ramps up the fear exponentially. It's immediate. It's now.
Exactly. And they felt it instantly. Totally freaked out now. They decide, okay, I'm calling this number. They hit call, and their heart just stops because they hear a phone ringing inside the store. Right there with them. They slam cancel on the call, immediately, and the ringing stops.
Oh man, confirmation. She's definitely there.
Yeah, shaking now. They force themselves, walk back to that aisle. The woman's still there. They're trying to rationalize. Maybe it's a prank, a really sick prank. They yell out, joke's over, I'm calling the cops, whoever you are. Trying to sound tough, right? Trying to convince themselves maybe it's a friend messing with them. They retreat. Back behind the counter. Feels a bit safer there.
But instinct to get behind a barrier.
Yeah. They didn't really want to call 911 yet, felt maybe premature. So they call their best friend. Friend picks up. They frantically explain everything. Ask if maybe someone they know, brunette hair, has their number, would do this. Friend throws out a couple names. Worker says no, doesn't match the body type they saw. And the friend, unfortunately, just kind of blows it off. Tells them to stop being such a scaredy cat since it was a girl, and hangs up.
Oh, that's rough. Dismissed when you're genuinely terrified.
Yeah, left feeling stupid, but still totally scared. They figure, okay, I have to deal with this myself. They start walking back towards the aisle again, slowly. And just as they're about to round the corner, they see it. Just half of her head, peeking out from behind the aisle display. She must have been kneeling. And the first thing they notice, small lines of blood trickling down her cheeks. from little cuts near her lips. And she's smiling, a really wide, unnatural smile, and making these low, guttural, like laughing sounds. It wasn't normal laughing.
Okay, that description is chilling. The blood, the smile, the sounds. Pure nightmare fuel.
It hit them that this wasn't a prankster their age. She looked older, maybe late 30s, 40s. And they get a little closer and just recognition clicks. Oh my God, it's this woman, someone with really serious mental health issues who had actually tried contacting them online before. Using a fake account. They knew she was considered dangerous. They thought she was in a psychiatric facility. How did she get the number? Their Instagram. It was set a public figure, and the phone number was right there.
Wow. So the online contact, the number, it all connects back.
Yeah.
And the person they thought was contained isn't.
Exactly. And seeing that face, the blood, the smile peering up from the floor, they felt physically ill. They just yelled something, a bluff, like, get away or I'll stab you. They knew they wouldn't, but it was pure panic. Turned and ran. Just ran. Found a place to hide in a back aisle, heart pounding. The only thing that broke the terror, they said, was hearing the front door beeper again. Finally. Someone else coming in. They peeked out cautiously, and the woman, gone. Vanished. They immediately called 911. Police came, took the report, looked at the CCTV. Worker told them everything. Who she was, her history. The officers were understanding, promised extra patrols. They blocked the number, obviously. And just hoped, that the police could find her, get her family, get her help.
That story just hits on so many levels. The danger of readily available personal info online, even something seemingly innocent like a public number. And it touches on the really difficult, complex situations around severe mental health issues, both for the person suffering and for, everyone else involved, including the systems meant to help. It's a stark reminder of how digital vulnerability can become terrifyingly physical.
Absolutely harrowing. Yeah. Makes you definitely rethink what you put out there online. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Our next story, different setting. Grocery store this time. And a different kind of weirdness. This comes from someone working the dairy aisle. They said, flat out, worst job ever. Constant heavy lifting, digging out expired stuff, always freezing cold.
Dairy does sound like a tough gig.
Yeah.
Physically demanding.
Yeah. And this store had one of those massive walk-in dairy coolers in the back, where they keep all the bulk milk, yogurt, cheese, everything. And this worker admitted they had a habit. Sometimes they'd sneak into the cooler to hide, take a quick break from supervisors. They'd bring a hoodie, obviously, because it was freezing. No pun intended, they added.
Hey, yeah. Gotta find those little escapes sometimes.
Yeah. So one night, working late till 10 p.m., store's pretty dead after 9. The supervisor that night was this guy, Mr. Senko, who was apparently a pain in the ass. Worker finishes stocking the milk on the floor, heads back towards the cooler, planning that usual quick hideout. But on the way, walking towards it, they see something. That makes them stop, just for a split second, like half a second maybe. A face. Through the glass of the cooler door, then it was gone. Instantly. Like ducked down or just moved away super fast. First thought, who's in there?
Already unsettling. An unexpected person in a restricted area.
Right. So they go through the cooler doors, hit by that blast of cold air and the roar of the giant fans. It's loud in there. Inside, it's just stacks and stacks of boxes, pallets, crates, towering over them. They look around. Behind the milk stacks, yogurt pallets, cheese crates, nothing. Nobody. Still, they decide, okay, whatever. Stick to the plan. Find an empty milk crate behind a big stack, sit down. Hidden. And then, bam. Lights in the cooler just switch off. Total darkness. Almost. Just a tiny bit of faint light bleeding through the glass doors from the store.
Whoa. Okay. That changes everything.
Yeah, they said instant mini panic attack. First thought, Mr. Senko. He found me. He's messing with me, flicking the lights.
That makes sense. Supervisor catching you slacking off.
So they stand up, step out from behind the boxes, and just freeze. Something's blocking the faint light from the doors. A silhouette standing right in front of them. Yeah. And it's a silhouette of a really tall person. They immediately knew couldn't be Mr. Senko. Supervisor was short. This figure, it looked like maybe a foot taller than they were, just standing there in the dark.
Okay, the darkness, the isolation. Your mind can play tricks. Absolutely.
Okay.
We try to make sense of shadows of the unknown. But even knowing that primal fear, when you see something unexpected, something that shouldn't be there in a space you thought was empty and safe, it's deeply unsettling. That clash between rational thought and what your eyes are telling you, it sticks.
Totally. And just as they're processing this impossibly tall shadow, the lights flicker back on. And the silhouette, the thing that was right there, gone, vanished completely. They said they just stood there for a second, then nervously walked over to the spot, waved their hand through the air where it had been, like testing reality. but they still felt it. That feeling, like they weren't alone in there. It just lingered, heavy.
That residual feeling, even after the visual's gone. Creepy.
Panic just floods in. They bolt, burst through the cooler doors, pull them shut tight behind them, and immediately they reach over and hit the light switch from the outside, plunging the cooler back into darkness. And then they peek back through the glass into the pitch black. Still nothing. The figure was gone. They said they just ripped off their apron right there, threw it on the floor, clocked out, didn't even care if Senko would be mad, just had to leave.
Right.
Now, they mentioned later that was the only time anything like that, anything they'd call genuinely paranormal, ever happened to them.
Just a single, bizarre, inexplicable moment.
Wow. Yeah. So, from unseen figures to, well, someone very much seen, just not supposed to be there at all. Our third story, this one's from someone working overnight stock at Lowe's. Home improvement stores. Their job involved moving between different stores, unloading trucks, forklifts, stocking shelves all night. Standard stuff for that role. On this specific night, the truck driver, Paul, was the only other person there at the start. They finish unloading. Paul leaves to do another run. Workers alone now, which was normal. They were used to it. Doing the usual routine. Scanning inventory with the gun, moving pallets, stocking shelves, back and forth between the main floor and the big warehouse area in the back. So they're working back in the warehouse section, scanning stuff. And suddenly, CRH. Loud noise from deeper in the warehouse. Scared them badly. They jump, spin around, see what it was. A big box, fallen off one of those huge stacks of pallets, piled high with unopened merchandise. Box looked okay, not damaged. They figured, all right, I'll get the forklift later, put it back up, no big deal. But it was right then, looking at the box, they noticed a smell, a weird smell. They described it as a funky odor. Didn't really think too much about it, though. Warehouses can smell funky sometimes, right? Dust, chemicals, whatever.
Yeah, it's one of those little details again, isn't it? Your brain registers something slightly off, like a smell. You rationalize it. It doesn't fit the immediate context, so you file it away. Until later.
Exactly. So, back to work. Later on, they're out on the main sales floor. They turn down the paint aisle and see someone. Way down at the other end, just walking. Definitely not Paul. And not wearing a Lowe's vest or anything, just dark clothes. So the worker yells out, hey! Pretty loud. The person turns, sees the worker, and immediately just bolts. Runs off down an intersecting aisle. Worker yells again, hey! Starts running after them. But by the time they get to that cross aisle, person's gone. Vanished. They do a quick check, look down the nearby aisles. Nothing. No sign of anyone. They try calling their managers. Maybe someone else was unexpectedly in. No answer. Okay. Definitely an intruder then. Someone broke in.
Right, that's the logical conclusion at that point.
Feeling pretty sketched out now, they head back towards the warehouse. And as they walk back through the doors, another crash. From the exact same pile of pallets where the first box fell.
Okay, now that's too much of a coincidence.
Right. They run over, and yep, something else had fallen from that same stack. That's it. Something is seriously wrong here. They run, grab one of those tall rolling ladders and wheel it over. Gotta see what's going on up top. They climb up. And when they get near the top of this huge stack, they see it. It wasn't just random boxes. There was like a wall, a perimeter of packages deliberately arranged, creating a big hole, a space hidden in the middle of the stack. And inside that hole, there's a man. Looks homeless, dressed all in black. It's the same guy they just saw running away in the paint aisle. And suddenly that funky odor makes horrifying sense. He'd been living up there.
Oh my God. He built a hiding spot, a literal nest inside the inventory stack.
Yeah. The guy looks up, sees the worker on the ladder, and the worker just freezes, utterly speechless. What do you even say? The man starts to get up, and for a split second, it looks like he might actually lunge at them off the stack.
Pure fight for flight moment.
Totally flight. Worker reacts on pure instinct. Scrambles down the ladder just low enough to safely jump off the last few rungs. Hits the ground and just runs. Bolts down the warehouse aisle, gets clear, pulls out their phone, calls the police. 2 officers show up maybe 15 minutes later. And of course, by then, a little hidden spot up there. Empty. The guy had grabbed his stuff and cleared out, vanished again. But here's the kicker. The really wild part from the source material. The camera footage. They checked it later. That guy had been living up there in that hidden spot for a whole week.
A week, undetected.
A whole week, completely unnoticed. Because, like the worker said, nobody constantly watches the warehouse cameras. They only review footage if something specific happens, like a theft or an accident.
That is just incredible.
Mm-hmm.
On one hand, the desperation and, frankly, resourcefulness to create that hidden space. Mm-hmm. On the other, It really speaks volumes about how much can go unnoticed, even in supposedly secure, monitored environments, hidden in plain sight for days, just because the system relies on reactive checks rather than proactive monitoring. Makes you wonder what else slips through the cracks.
Yeah, it really, really does. These three stories, they're all so different on the surface. You've got the stalker crossing from online threats into terrifying physical presence. You've got that fleeting, maybe paranormal, maybe just deeply strange silhouette in the freezing dark. And then a hidden human life, literally inside the walls or stacks of the store. But the common thread, right, it's that vulnerability, being alone in a place that feels familiar until it suddenly doesn't, until something deeply unsettling happens and you realize just how isolated you are and how much can happen unseen. So yeah, some genuinely disturbing stories we've shared today, all drawn from real people's experiences working those quiet, lonely shifts. They definitely remind you that even in the most everyday places, the unexpected, the truly unsettling can be lurking just around the corner. Leaves a lasting impression.
Absolutely. And they offer these different glimpses into, well, reality, I suppose. How digital connections can curdle into physical danger. How isolation can warp perception. And how entire hidden realities, like someone living in a warehouse stack, can exist right under our noses, completely unseen. It definitely raises questions about what we miss, what goes unnoticed in the spaces we think we know.
Thank you for tuning in and listening to these accounts with us. We hope they gave you, well, something to think about. Maybe next time you're working late or just walking down a quiet store aisle by yourself. Stay safe out there, and goodbye for now.